Now, if the person says, well, I don't build expectations that way, you say, well, that's an unrealistic expectation itself. Last one, apply to self. Apply to self is where you take some part of the belief statement that the person has used and you actually evaluate the belief from one of the important criteria that has been mentioned in the belief itself. So for example, if somebody goes, saying mean things means you're a bad person, you'd say, that's a mean thing to say. So I take the belief and I say, how does this belief fit its own criteria? If somebody goes, it's risky to try new things, I can say, isn't it a risk to believe that it's risky to do new things? Couldn't that be risking the fact that you might not learn how to do things that are necessary to survive? So I take the purpose of the belief, one of its stated criteria, and I try to bring the belief under its own value structure. Okay, so I think the best way to do this is with a few more examples. Somebody says, I can't, well, let's skip that example for now. Take the next page, because that one, I'd rather take one that's clearer. If I care about others, they'll take advantage of me. That's a pretty uncaring belief to have. I mean, so I say this belief, since caring is an issue here, one of the things I can do is to point out how the belief itself is uncaring. Somebody says, people will take advantage of me. I can say people could take advantage of that belief. So again, I am trying to take the belief, and it's a funny kind of a maneuver. Yeah, it's a funny kind of a thing that you're doing because it's not a linear thing. It's not a, you're trying to take this statement and saying, how does the belief fit under its own purpose, its own intent? Can I apply the intent of the belief to actually get the person to change the belief? You were late, so you don't care about me. Now you tell me. Didn't you care enough to tell me earlier? So in other words, you use the lateness or the timing issue on the belief itself. You don't care about me again. It's an uncaring thing to say. You say mean things, you're a bad person. Well, that's a mean thing to say. Or it's also bad to judge others as bad. So again, I take part of this belief and I'm trying to use it as a leverage to shift the belief. So for example, if somebody goes, oh, this person never listens to me. All he does is yaks and never listens to what I have to say. So what you can do is to say, you can just say something like, well, listen to what you're saying. If you never give them the opportunity to listen, if you only tell them that they don't listen to you, is that the thing that you want them to hear? What do you really want them to hear? So I try to take some part of what their issue is and actually apply that issue to show how the conflict that you're having is actually working against the purpose of your belief. And that's what it means to apply the belief to itself. So for example, if somebody goes, NLP is dangerous because it's manipulative, I could either say, that's a dangerous thing to say to an NLP person. Are you sure you want to say that? Or you can say, that's a pretty manipulative statement to make. You manipulate other people into believing that it might not be true. So again, you could apply either side, either criteria that's being brought up in this belief to itself. So let's review. One is hierarchies. One of the most important things that you have as a negotiator is to be able to find things that are more important to the people than the content of their issue. That will get you miles in resolving conflicts. Find something that's more important than the thing that they're arguing about, and refer to that. Number two, meta-frames. Instead of talking about their beliefs, you want to talk about meta-comment on their communication. You want to comment on their patterns of communication and their beliefs. You also want to comment about the purpose of the context. This is where you say, I'm here to give you new ideas, you're here to learn new ideas. That's a meta-frame around the whole thing. Okay, so if you set that in the beginning, it means that when you introduce a new idea, you're not arguing with them, you're doing what the frame is about. See, so it gives you this you're saying, I'm not arguing with you, I'm just trying to introduce a new idea, which is what our meta-frame is. So again, it gives you something to refer to so that you're not going to have to take heat if you disagree with them. And number three, applying to self, try to use their own criteria to leverage a change in themselves. Again, if someone's afraid to do something new because of a risk, you might also show how it can be just as much of a risk to believe that you shouldn't do new things. That's pretty risky. Okay? Now, again, I don't expect you when you're doing this to be, oh, I'm doing this pattern, now I'm doing this pattern. I want to introduce those to you, so you just do what you can do. Forget about the structure of it. You have the patterns. Let them come out as is appropriate. At the end, what you might want to go back, we'll debrief, and you can tell the people, this is what I was trying to do when I did that. Were you aware of how I was using this criteria? One other little thing I would just remind you is to really, since this is a role play, it's not that important that you have to worry about, solving the problem or whatever. So you can take a few risks, so to speak, if you want to. Try something new. Even if it doesn't fit with necessarily the way you would typically operate. Obviously, you can probably fit these into the way that you might typically operate. But it's okay to take a few risks doing this. And the other thing is to take action. I see sometimes people let the folks that are doing it go on a little too long. You're going to learn more if you try to influence it more. And since, again, it's a role play, and the purpose is to not have to worry about messing it up because this is a role play. It's kind of make some interventions and don't let them go on too long. Even if it's just doing something crazy, it's okay. Yeah. Have fun. I think that's the byword here. All right, I'll bring them in. We'll have about 20 minutes. I think it should be fun. These three patterns. Hierarchy, meaning trying to find something that was more important than the particular issue that you were in conflict about to draw you to a unity on a larger level. Metaframing, which was putting the belief conflict that you had into a frame that was going around the ongoing personal context. That is, instead of talking about the beliefs or the past or the future, metaframing what you're doing right here and now. And then applying to self, which would be taking some part of the belief, some of the criteria, intention, purpose, whatever you want to call it, and actually having you evaluate your own belief conflict from the point of view of what you're trying to prevent or to achieve with the belief itself, which I think all are what I would call meta maneuvers. They're all, instead of trying to change the structure of the belief, trying to challenge the belief or move it around in this way, they are all things that go above the belief and sort of apply back onto it, which is you're not actually trying to change the belief in any way when you do it. You're not trying to say it's not this or it's not that. What you're doing is you're saying evaluate what's happening here from this more this larger or more meta context.
Would you do a demonstration, one of excellence, for us to observe?
Well, actually, that was part of what I was going to ask, because I wanted to find out if anybody had trouble doing one of these with one of these situations, if you couldn't figure out how to metaframe a certain thing or how to use one of these. That's kind of what I had in mind, so I agree with that. But is it on? No, it's not on. Sorry. I hope we missed a lot of that, maybe.
That's not what we're recording.
Oh, okay. So first of all, let's find out. I mean, in your group, were you meta man? So this is